I plan on making a full review for Sonic Frontiers as its 4th anniversary is on the horizon, and I started recording footage for it about a week ago, but there were so many things that struck me as odd, things that I didn't really notice on my first playthrough in 2022, so I decided to make this little preview for my arguments before fully committing to what will probably be a 2-hour long video. I'm not going to spoil everything just here or lay all my cards on the table, but I'll just be brushing on 2 major problems about the game that you'll see early on. Problem 1. The movement. Sonic goes up a hill and his speed doesn't decline, nor does he gain speed when descending. That little grace period you get before hitting full speed, like in nearly every other Sonic game, is neutered by the full speed, which feels more like a casual jog rather than actual running. But that's where the boost comes in, and I'll be honest with you, I would have preferred a run button like in Lost World over the boost. In previous boost titles, well, the good ones anyways, you were pretty much holding it down for the majority of your run, but the entire game was built around that system, and you actually had to maintain your boost gauge throughout the stage. In Unleashed, Colors, and Generations, I don't feel bored while running at normal speed or letting go of the boost button to get through some tighter platforming, because Sonic's base speed is fast enough to make it engaging. But in Frontiers, he's just slow. So slow to the point where I feel like giving the boost a gauge is just tiresome. It's not like stamina in Breath of the Wild, which is tied to so many functions and is actually worth upgrading. And I feel like Sonic Team must have felt that too, as they give you the ability to side loop an infinity sign to get infinite boost for a short period of time. There's also the boost you get when you have max rings, which is also infinite. So again, why couldn't this just be a run button? Running and jumping feels rather bad too, as you don't carry the speed from your boost like you do in other titles. And this is especially painful in certain areas later on, where being able to maintain momentum and speed in your jump would improve exploration. We also have the drop dash, and I'm just going to come right out and say it, the drop dash doesn't work in this game at all. It's very unsatisfying in earlier parts of the game due to the double jump needing to come out before you can input the drop dash, and by the time you make it to the final areas of the game with Sonic's attributes fully upgraded, it's just worthless and it outright hinders your movement. You can't move Sonic during the peak of drop dash in these stages, only when it loses the majority of its speed, which means if you input this at any moment, you're just going to run into walls and stick there until you exit out of it. Grind rails are also poorly implemented. It doesn't matter if you get on them at the slowest speed possible, you will always make it to the other end. There's no trial and error for doing things too slow or too fast, you're rewarded for just participating. And that is the exact opposite of how a Sonic game should be designed. As you progress through the game, you unlock bits of the map as well as grind rails that are there to be fast travels, but why would anybody want fast travel in a Sonic game? You'd think running from point A to point B would be enough, but clearly the devs didn't think so. And to me, the only reason you would need fast travel in a Sonic game is if the environment is that boring to play through, which again, I guess they realized midway through development because they're just slapped everywhere with no real spectacle or anything. Cyberspace is home to the worst feeling Sonic ever, and yes, that is counting Sonic 06. Here's the second level in the entire game, and it starts off with Sonic running in a cutscene which transitions to actual gameplay. The game expects you to just mindlessly hold forward, which maintains this speed, but what if I didn't want to hold forward and win? What if I actually wanted to engage with the game that I'm playing? Again, this wouldn't be a huge problem if Sonic's base speed wasn't slow as shit. The homing attack also feels terrible in both cyberspace and open zone. It has this annoyingly long end lag after you land it. It's just so heavy, which none of the other boost games suffered from, so I don't get why they designed it like this, especially since the homing attack on balloons is really fast and lightweight. I seriously don't get how these levels were playtested by actual people in Sonic Team themselves, and this was seemingly never addressed. The overall flow of cyberspace stages is very amateurish compared to, again, every other boost title that came before it. And I'm going to get way deeper into this in the actual video, but the spectacle of Boost Sonic mostly comes from the camera in combination with Sonic's speed. Take Generations for example. Look at how it zooms in and out on Sonic depending on what area of the stage he's in. Whether he's boosting, jumping, and the way it flows between 2D to 3D. It's really fluid and exciting and engaging. And if the camera was mostly static or not heavily tied to Sonic's moveset like it is in Frontiers, then it just looked extremely boring. Problem 2. The game doesn't trust the player. Anyone would assume that an open world game would allow the player to kick back and fully absorb themselves in it, finding unique ways to get around and experimenting with what it has to offer. Sonic Frontiers doesn't trust you to do any of that. Instead, it decides to place various objects to sort of gesture you towards playing the game the way they want you to. And this is the result of lazy level design. Notice how some of these areas, which are good for actual platforming, have balloons, dash panels, springs, and rails all over it. Playing Frontiers is like riding a bike with its training wheels still on. I mean, they're fine for learning, but they're never taken off. You don't get to make mistakes in this game with platforming. It will always save you no matter what. And it's just so frustrating in Ray Island especially, as the whole focus of it is just platforming. But despite that, there's still massive amounts of automation and being locked towards one single path. In this instance, I'm doing nothing here. I'm not touching the stick. In fact, I'm actively trying to get out of it by jumping around, but it won't let me. What's the point in making an open world Sonic game if you're going to predetermine the path players should go on, how they should interact with the world, and outright take control away when it gets too hard? Sonic Frontiers introduces a combat system, and yeah, you certainly are combating things in this game. There is no reward for actually chaining attacks together, it's just all style with zero substance. Hype moments and aura, as they say. These attacks can be mashed at any moment, they have no cooldown whatsoever, and the parry the game supplies you with isn't an actual parry, it's just an infinite shield you can hold down forever. I mean, look at this clip that I have on screen right now. This is one of the first few attacks you get in the game, and I can just hold down the trigger and let it go until I touch the ground. I don't get punished for this, there's no cooldown for it. You can just do it. You can do anything you want in this game. It doesn't matter. And that pretty much covers the basics of what I plan on talking about in the full video. Of course, I'll be covering other things like story, music, and graphics, and go over these points again with much more depth and analysis in them. I plan on having the full video out in November, and like I said around the beginning, it'll more than likely be the first video on this channel to hit an hour in runtime. Hell, maybe even 2 hours. So in the meantime, I plan on releasing some smaller videos around manga I've been reading to fill in for how much time will just go into editing, scripting, and recording.